What's up everyone, John4 here again, and today we have a very special video. Now I wanted to make these things for a long time, but I delayed on it, but I think before we get God of War Ragnarok, I want to try to get all of these videos out. And today's video is going to be Freya versus the Sisters of Fate. Can Freya actually take them on? I'm gonna really break down everything about both the characters, what they can do, what they've done throughout the story. Obviously, we're going to get more Freya in God of War Ragnarok, so this is everything we know about her so far, and she actually has more stuff than the sisters, so I'm really interested in breaking this stuff down. Then at the end, I'll give my opinion after I tell you all of their abilities and stuff like that. But before we get into it, we have a sponsor for this video. Lately, I've been gaming more on my PC. However, I've always hated how keeping my browser open sometimes causes a ton of lag, messing with my games and my browser itself, but that all changes with Opera GX. This browser is really useful for gamers because this browser has CPU and RAM limiters, so these additions really help out with having a smooth experience and performance in the browser itself and whatever game I'm playing on my PC, making it perfect for people like me who love playing games. I also have a very bad habit of keeping so many tabs open at once, and Opera GX helps me to organize and close them on the fly with just a click of a button. They have so many quality of life changes throughout the extensions and customizations they provide. For example, it comes with its own ad blocker and a blocker for trackers as well, keeping you safe as you browse the internet. Also, you can change what brightness you want. It has a dark mode, a light mode, and if you change it within the browser settings, it changes for every single website. And yes, every single one. It also includes custom wallpapers and animated wallpapers. This browser even goes as far as to integrate with several music apps like Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, YouTube Music. It really does a ton, so definitely check out Opera GX by hitting my link in the description, and I do appreciate them for sponsoring this video. So I think it's cool that we start with Freya first, as she has a lot of powers and abilities people don't know about because it wasn't mentioned in the actual game. So first off, Freya has the ability to mind hex allies and make them fight against one another. This was mentioned in the God of War podcast before God of War 2018 came out, and it was also said again in God of War Lore and Legends, which is a novel that explains a lot about the God of War universe. Next, I think we should talk about the Valkyrie Wings. Freya, when she married Odin, was granted the Valkyrie Wings, and it was attached to her warrior spirit, and she was queen of the Valkyries, and even Sigron confirmed this as well, and it's also mentioned in Lore and Legends. Now, I think the important thing about this piece of information is that we should be able to scale Freya, her physical abilities, with Sigron. Anything that Sigron can do, we should assume that Freya can actually do as well, since she was the queen of the Valkyries for an extended period of time. I think the reason why they mention this in God of War 2018 and why it's so important is that it really should show how powerful Freya is. Of course, we all know that she's powerful. She pretty much led the armies in the Aesir-Vanir War. Even though she's very kind-hearted, she is a very rough fighter, and I think that is very important. So for the remainder of this video, I'm going to be assuming that everything that Sigron physically can do, I think that Freya can actually do as well. I really wanted to ask Bruno about this, or any other dev that is willingly to talk, because they like to answer these fans' questions, but I'm afraid that it might come off as I'm looking for information, so we're just going to assume that Freya physically can do anything that Sigron can physically do. For this next part, I want to talk about all the magic feats that she has done throughout the games, and I will be showing clips and all of this, but I won't be harping on them. This is just to show that she can pretty much do anything that she damn pleases, and she has an endless pool of magic abilities, so let's just start. With the help of Hildisvini and Mimir, Freya actually made Baldur immortal. We learn from Mimir that Freya once turned Thor invisible, and they snuck their way into Jotunheim so Thor can get his hammer back, which is really cool because not even giants can detect Thor when he was invisible. So Atreus, who can actually sense animals and can feel them, like when they met Brock for the very first time, he told Kratos to throw his axe into the woods on the right, and when he did, animals fled, which is pretty damn cool. So that means that not even giants can feel someone when they're invisible. Of course, she can actually heal people, because of course she can when she healed Hildisvini with her magic. She can cast vines. I'm going to talk about the vines a little bit later because they are very important, but these vines have a multitude of functions and are extremely powerful. And these vines are not connected to the world tree, yet they still have this type of power, which I'm going to bring up a little bit later. She can sense other gods, like how she sensed Kratos was a god. This is explained in the novel as well. She can even shapeshift. She shapeshifted into an eagle at the end of God of War 2018 before the Baldur fight, and of course in God of War Ragnarok. So this woman can basically do anything. She even has light arrows that, you know, we saw her use, but her bow ran out of the light. But of course, Alfheim is open to her now, so maybe she can go to Alfheim and once again get these light abilities, these light arrows, which is pretty fucking sick. She can even reanimate Thalmor, the stonemason's body, so honestly, she can pretty much do everything, and that's the whole point of everything I just explained. But about the vines are actually extremely powerful. It can rival Mjolnir, which obviously is extremely powerful, but Freya's vines can actually repel Kratos' Leviathan axe. In lore and legends, when Kratos wanted to see her, she had her whole sanctuary covered by her vines, and when Kratos tried to hit her vines and break it with the Leviathan axe, it repelled the axe. Like, the axe can't even go through her vines, which is absolutely insane. She can even create creatures. Those creatures that you saw called Legion during the Baldur fight, even though they didn't really do damage to Kratos, she can actually create them. And it said that in lore and legends that, yeah, she did herself create those. So again, all of this is pretty damn cool, but I want to mention one more thing that Freya can do. I mentioned earlier that we're going to assume that anything Sigron can do physically, Freya can do. So how powerful is Sigron? So this, take it with a grain of salt, but the God of War card game is actually canon, all the descriptions that they give, and the description of Sigron reads, if anyone can defeat Odin, it's Sigron, who was once the Valkyrie Queen. The only way to break the spell binding her to this mortal state is to defeat her. So yeah, Sigron is superior to Odin, but that's not actually too surprising. Eric Williams did say that Odin is an old guy just kind of doing his own thing, so it's not really the greatest surprise in the world. So now let's move on to the Sisters of Fate, and of course they're exactly how you think they are, but here is Cory Barlog describing them in an interview he did for God of War 2.
Everyone's life is a thread woven and cut by the sisters whenever they deem. So they are more powerful than the gods, more powerful than the titans, more powerful than anybody in the mythological world.
Not even the titans know how to reach the sisters' temple.
Clothos does confirm that through her that life can take place. She actually says it in God of War 2. In descriptions of the Loom Chamber where the Sisters of Fate were in God of War 2, it's only through here that past, present, and the future can be changed and decided. Now, I'm not going to go through every single part in the God of War novel where they talk about sisters altering fate, because we all know together that it's just their thing, it's what they do, and they do it through the Loom Chamber. So yeah, here are a couple of screenshots, but that's it. But the final thing, and I think the most mediocre thing, is that they can shoot electricity or this emerald green energy that comes from within them. It's not ever explained what they are, but there you go. Also, the sisters can regenerate extremely quickly. Like, I don't think there's even a way to kill them physically. If you remember when Kratos was trapped in the past with Atropos, he straight up drove the blades of chaos into her head, and then he escaped the past, and then moments later she regained consciousness and tried to fly back, but she was eventually trapped in the past. And that's the same thing with the other sister as well. They were both trapped in the past, as there was no way that they can die. I think that they are immortal, actually. The only way Kratos beat them was by trapping them in the past. So I'm going to give my opinion now, and we're going to again assume that Freya has her Valkyrie Wings, that she's not cursed by Odin and can fight back. We're also going to assume that the battle will take place in the Loom Chamber, so Freya is put in the same position Kratos was in God of War 2. Now, there are a couple things to mention about this. Kratos was the only person, this is mentioned throughout God of War 2 novel and a bunch of old interviews that Corey and the writers and directors did back in the day, but Kratos is the only person whose life cannot be affected by fate or be changed by destiny in any way. It was even said in the God of War 2 novels when Kratos was on his way to confront the sisters that they were actively trying to change his fate, but every time they cut his thread, it just healed again. I mentioned all about this in my Kratos breakdown videos. Definitely check them out. Links will be at the end. But Kratos is the only character known to do this. But the tricky thing here is that Scandinavia and Greece are two separate entities altogether. They're not the same place, so the life that comes out of Klothos is not affected by Norse mythology. So the question really is, if Freya would confront the sisters, can the sisters alter her fate just like they did with, basically everybody else in the Greek world? I think the answer to this question really shows the outcome of the match. I think that if Freya can somehow mind hex the sisters in the similar way she did to the Norse gods, the Aesir, I think that she would instantly have the advantage, forcing them to fight one another. I think her magic is just superior to them when it comes to the physical capabilities. I think if the sisters cannot alter Freya's fate and change her fate similar to what they're known for, I think Freya instantly has the advantage here. I think she's just too damn strong and her magic is too damn potent for them to handle. But there is an obvious problem with all of this, is how the hell can Freya land a killing blow? Unless she uses her magic to actually take away their immortality, since again she did create Baldur's Curse, maybe that she has some type of magic ability to take something away. But I think that that's the problem with Freya in this matchup. In my personal opinion, even though I do believe that Freya is stronger with her magic and what she can do as a character, especially if we compare her to Sigron, I do believe that there's no way she can land a killing blow unless that's one of her abilities. And also, if the sisters can manipulate fate, she has to do what Kratos did and trap them in the past and then breaking the mirrors in the Loom Chamber. It's the only way to possibly get rid of them, because as far as we know, the sisters are immortal. Besides, the bigger one in the back. But there's a huge blade in her head. I think even if she would regain consciousness, she just die instantly unless somebody removes that big ass blade from her dome. But that's my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Who do you think would win in this battle? They both have several abilities and several advantages over the other.